Our attention now to Gaelic games because we have three provincial finals this weekend. We weren't sure which of them really deserved conversation. We were definitely certain that the Leinster one was not something that we were going to have a conversation about. So we settled on Ulster, and to preview it, we're delighted to say we're joined on the line by the former Donegal footballer Eamon McGee. Morning to you, Eamon.
Morning, Adrian. How are you?
All good. What are the excitement levels in Donegal for this weekend against Fermanagh? It's a first ever meeting of these two in an Ulster final.
First ever meeting between Fermanagh and Donegal Ulster Final, but in general the excitement's probably around 5 or 6. We've been about there for an Ulster Final 7 times now in the last decade, so I think the supporters are well used to it, and although we've only won 3, the excitement levels wouldn't be high up now.
Does that suggest a bit of a Donegal arrogance about this one, Eamon? Everyone's expecting to get it done?
No, it's not arrogance at all. It's just this is the way things are, and this is the way things that they'll always get in Ulster Final. And I don't think, from the people I chat to, they're not taking Fermanagh for granted. I think Monaghan fell into that trap in terms of their management and players both took Fermanagh for granted, and they quickly realised that they were in a dogfight fairly early on, and the pressure built on them, and they just they fell in the hurdle against Fermanagh in the semi-final. I don't think Donegal will do the same thing. Hopefully not.
Donegal were obviously well beaten in their last 2 games of last year's championship. They were relegated out of Division 1 this year. Fermanagh are a county that haven't appeared in an Ulster final for 10 years. They were a Division 3 team this year, obviously got promoted out of that. Is it a case that, is the Ulster Championship now just a poor fare or a poorer fare than it was, Eamon, in terms of the quality?
Yeah, definitely. I'd have to, although I'd love to say that, Ulster's still the top dog, it's not. And when you consider, the 2 teams in the Ulster final, if you look at the Donegal teams, even if they're early noughties, and you look at this Donegal team that's this Donegal team that's going in as favourites, then, the Donegal team of the early noughties is far, far better, and that tells you that, the quality has dropped, and the fact that Fermanagh are in, and they were in Division 3, and although they got up to Division 2, they know themselves that they're not going to be about the business end of the season, in terms of the semi-final or the final, and this is as good as you get for Fermanagh.
Yeah, it may not be stereotypically competitive when you get outside of Ulster and when you get into the business end of the championship, as we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. But at the same time, you could look at this Donegal team and you could kind of put a lot on them in terms of how important they could be for Ulster football. Like an average of 219 across their 3 championship games so far, playing a swashbuckling style of football, that if they have a healthy win on Sunday and if they manage to go deep into the championship, I'm talking getting to an All-Ireland semi-final and being competitive in an All-Ireland semi-final, does the rest of Ulster then turn around and think to themselves, right, this is a new blueprint, this is how we need to start playing?
Yeah, and that's the way football has gone. We did it with Armagh in the early noughties, that great Armagh team. We all started doing what they were doing, and we followed Tyrone's template, and then we did it with Donegal. When Donegal went extremely defensive in 2011, we started copying them, and if this Donegal team do go on to have success in terms of getting the provincial title and hopefully getting a semi-final or a final, then people start taking notice and saying this is something new. And that's the challenge for coaches nowadays. It's not to start copying, it's to find their own template and forge their own path. And that's why we see so many bluffers in the GA just copying everybody else there.
Enda McGinley was on with us last night, Eamon, and he was talking about Rory's capacity to sort of be a bit chippy and maybe to rile up players to a certain degree, and obviously he's got Ricey alongside him as well, so I'm sure there's no shortage of that regard. Is that the Rory that rings true for you?
Yeah, I think, I had this discussion yesterday with someone. I think Rory and Ricey, they both come from that school that there's plenty of time to make friends outside of the field and away from the playing days. I think I was chatting to Ash McConville there, and he says within the last 8 to 9 months, Fermanagh have developed a nasty side, and they've revelled in that role. And the fact that they have Rory Gallagher and Ricey pushing them on and just developing that cutthroat kind of mentality that you have to have, and that's just the sad reality of it. You have to have that cutthroat mentality if you're going to, be about that business end of the year. And Fermanagh are taking to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, is that? I mean, are you saying that as I'm not casting any aspersions on your own career, but are you saying is that something? I almost sense that you're saying it as something that's a bit of an indictment almost on Fermanagh or on any team that has to play that way. But because I mean, it can be a positive thing too, right? Like I mean, if you stay within the rules of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously there's a line there, and you push it to the line, and as far as sometimes when the heat of the battle and passions are up, some people and some players, and I have done it myself, will cross that line and go too far. But definitely, and the way GA is, and the way most sport is, you have to have that cutthroat mentality where you have to just have, there is no friends and you're just out to one, and that's it. That's the elite sport. That's what everybody in elite sport does. It's not as if we're down intermediate or junior level where we can all go out and have the crack. And we're out there. We're spending loads of amounts of time, investing lots and lots of our own time and sacrificing. And it has to be cutthroat.
How far can that take them, Eamon, do you think, from a perspective? Is that the sort of thing that could see them get the job done this weekend? Is it the sort of thing that might see them into the Super 8s, that might see them go a bit deeper? Or does it actually just help what maybe an average bunch, whether it's Fermanagh or whoever else, just punch slightly above their weight?
Yeah, it's definitely an added weapon. I don't know, will it be... At the end of the day, you need 15 good players. That's the biggest thing. And all the rest of this stuff, in terms of siege mentality, everybody's out to get us, or this, cutthroat mentality, that's just we added percentages. But the main thing is you have to have 15 good players, And just when I looked at the Fermanagh and Monaghan game yesterday, it was just to see where they're at. And Fermanagh are probably outside the top 10, possibly top 12 teams in
the Wi-Fi has let us down on. It's cut Eamon McGee off in his prime there. We'll try and re-establish that line. In the meantime, we said we weren't going to talk very much about the other... We're not talking about the Leinster final for sure.
Why not?
Doesn't deserve the conversation.
You can throw darts at the board and predict how many points someone will win by. You
already told us that Kerry are going to hockey Cork, so I mean, there's probably deserves little conversation either. But we are going to hear from the Kerry manager, Eamon Fitzmaurice, in the Munster final this weekend. Kerry against Cork. Eamon Fitz speaking tomorrow. Terasa Nicalig.
Obviously last year, because of the nature of the performance and the replay, there was a lot of hard questions being asked. We had to ask a lot of hard questions of ourselves and of the players. But look, that's a positive environment as you move forward, because there's growth, there's learning. You try to improve, you try to change things up. As poor as we were in that replay last year, we were very close to getting into the All-Ireland final the first day. While we still didn't have our A game, we almost beat a team that's been very, very close to winning an All-Ireland the last couple of years. So, while there was hard questions to be asked, we knew we weren't a million miles away if we could get ourselves right. So that's one of the big things, is that you just have to, regardless what preparation goes on in the background in preparation for a big game, you have to perform on the day. And we didn't perform the end of last August, but we're hoping for the Munster final now that there's a big performance in us again.
Yeah, the old cute Kerry horism there at full play, they're sort of... Look, Cork will probably be favourites for it, but we might get in under the radar.
He literally didn't say that. He literally did not say that Cork might be favourites.
That's what I hear. That's when I hear the Kerry accent, I hear all sorts of things, that subliminal messages and all that sort of stuff. Eamon McGee is back on the line. Eamon, you were cut off in your prime there. There's a couple of things we wanted to get to before we let you off. One of them being Michael Murphy, and the idea that maybe we might be seeing something slightly different from Michael Murphy this year. Like he obviously is one of those players who has that sort of Joe Canning capacity, that if he's not feeling involved enough, he will come out the field either by design or by choice on the hoof or whatever it might be. Are we seeing something slightly different from him this year, in that he's maybe tended to stay forward a little bit more?
Yeah, Michael tends to, the ideal situation, and I think everybody in Donegal is agreement that you would like to see Michael Murphy and Paddy McBrearty on the edge of the square, in a forward position, and that's where he should be doing his best work. But just Michael's so good, and he's just so good in the ball, and he always makes the right calls, that he inevitably finds himself out around the middle of the park. So it's up to the lads. There's lads that come in there like Owen McNeilis and Hugh McFadden, and they're filling that void. And Frank McGlinnon's back playing well, and he's making the right decisions. And it's just about these lads to fill that void that Michael leaves when he goes inside. And I think hopefully we'll see that more. I don't know, can we afford to do it against bigger teams? And will there be much point in leaving him inside against Fermanagh when there's about 14 men in front of him? So possibly later on we'll see him in and out, and the ideal situation is to leave him in, but it's up to the lads to step up to the plate.
What does Michael Murphy get the most joy out of as a footballer? Does he prefer kicking the ball over the bar? Does he prefer being up in the middle of the pitch and catching a big high ball?
Michael is just like one of them lazy forwards. Whatever position he does the less work, he just wants to be, and that's nearest the goal. Like, I've given out to Michael since he came into the squad. He couldn't tackle, he had no work rate, and it was just a general GA forward. And he's completely changed it. He puts in a massive shift every game he plays in, and he just puts his body in the line, and that's just a seismic change in attitude that he's had over the last few years. He's a total leader, but he just loves to be in about the goal. He just loves, because he's such an eye for goal, and that's his natural position. And hopefully, when the lads do step up, that he can finish off his last few years in Donegal playing inside and full forward.
When did that attitude change, Eamon? Was it? I presume it was prior to 2012.
Yeah, I think the big one for Michael is that he played under 21 with Jim McGuinness, and Jim gave him a role as a leader, as a captain. And obviously Michael has always had unbelievable ability and unbelievable talent. There was no question about it. But Jim gave him the reins, and he just took it, and he was talking in the dressing room. And the Michael Murphy that was before the Jim McGuinness under 21 team and the Michael Murphy that was after were two totally different players in terms of what they brought to the dressing room, and in terms of leadership. And Michael, he's always looking at clips of games and other sports to get this extra edge, and that all comes from that under 21, that development years on under 21 with Jim McGuinness.
A quick word on the Donegal defence, Eamon. I know Neil is obviously out this weekend. In terms of potential vulnerabilities that we might have seen over the games so far, and while obviously that may not be the most significant issue this weekend, but going down the track, are you seeing anything there that causes you pause for thought?
Yeah, definitely. It's no secret Donegal are conceding a lot, and at times during the league and even at times during the championship that you could nearly get a double-decker bus down the middle of the defence. And that's why Neil is such a loss, because if Rory's looking at Donegal and he's thinking where can we get at Donegal, then it's going to be there's the Quigley's are knocking about there, put them on the edge of the square, and they don't have as big a presence without Neil. Going forward, I think we definitely need to have a better defensive structure, and we just cannot go flip the thing completely from where we were to where we're going now. And I think that it's just too much space, and we need to just work. Maybe that's the thing for next year, and that's what Declan's working on this year, and just playing a more expansive style of play, and that'll be the box that we tick next year in terms of getting a defensive structure, because people forget that we were so defensive in 2011 under Jim, and the box we ticked the following year, 2012, was that we were very, very good going forward, and we realised that's something we had to do. We couldn't do the two things in the one season, so we had to become competitive, concede as less scores as possible, and then the following year, we added a kicking game, we had the running game, and I think people forget that we were very good offensively in 2012 and the years after.
Has Arlene Foster decided if she's going yet?
I don't know. It's there's a lot of hassle about flags now. I just couldn't be bothered with it now. Just when I see something about Arlene and is she going to the game, or there's any Northern Ireland politician going to the game, you just tend to switch off now. But she probably could do worse. And I think Fermanagh and the DUP have kind of a media ban the UP fine anybody that talks to the media outside of protocols. So I think they have something in common anyway.
What was the hassle about the flags?
You know, just in terms of flags, you know, what flags are flown, and Fermanagh flags in Fermanagh, and the Fermanagh flags are being taken down in some areas, and
right,
it's just, you know, it's tiresome.
Yeah. I hear you. They could also do with maybe sort of putting their heads to the block with other more significant issues up there. Eamon, thanks a million for taking the call this morning. Always a pleasure.
Cheers, Jamie. Thanks so much. See you later.
Cheers.